Okay, in this video, I want to show you how to do a chi-square as well as mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation. You'll see here in your survey that it's cleaned up, so any extraneous columns or rows are gone. Column 2, or rather row 2, used to have more information about the details of the question. I've just combined that into row 1, and then prior to column A, there was a lot of other information that SurveyMonkey pops in there, like their location, maybe the IP address, what time they took the survey, that sort of stuff. So I just cleaned that up. This will become handy if we decide later to put this into SPSS, but for now I just want to do this in Excel, and hopefully this will help you understand what we're doing. So the chi-square is basically a statistical assessment to see if there's a relationship or some connection between variables. In this case, what I want to do is I want to see if the grandchildren, if their grandparents actually, gender, male or female, has a relationship to the grandchild's attendance at school. In other words, if they are living with their grandfather or their grandmother, do they have better attendance at school? Or do they have better academics? Do they understand that there's support provided to them? Or do they have discipline or behavior issues, depending on if they live with a grandfather versus a grandmother? Now, the problem that we will likely have with this is that we don't have a large enough population sample. So with this, let me show you here. I think this is the column. We have males and females. We have, when we click on females, we have 30 females, and when we click on males, we have 1. And you can see that down in the bottom of your screen. So we only have 1 male, but I want to go ahead with the test just to show you how you can do this. So the first step is to just drop into your spreadsheet anywhere. You can be on any cell at all. Hit insert pivot table. It will ask you if you want a pivot table in a new worksheet, and we do. And you should see these little dots kind of crawling across your page, and that shows you that it is going to select everything from this spreadsheet, and you hit OK. Now what we want to do is look at question 9, which is one of our questions about support at school, and we want to look at question 23, which is the question about male or female for the grandparents. Now, if we just did this, it's only going to list that we have a question and we have males and females. It doesn't tell us how many males and females. So I want to take question 23 and drag it down here to the values. And you'll see that you have count. You could change that value setting to several other options here, but we truly want to know count. How many males and females did we have that, in this case, their grandchild used support in the form of a pull-out class for tutoring during the school day? So this is question 9. Now, what you'll see is that now it tells you, I'll turn this off here, it tells you how many females, for example, their grandchild actually did not use the support. But we did have 7 grandparents, grandmothers specifically, who their grandchild did use support. Okay, so I took this information then, this helps you to get the information, then I carried it over to question 9, and we'll see again, these are students that used academic support for their learning problems. Okay, now these are the actual values. So what we did here, we had 7 females that said yes, their grandchild used the support. We had 1 male that said no, and we had 18 females that said no. This then we want a total. Now I have these automatically to where they will sum. You'll see the formula here. So we're summing this column. Then here we're summing how many females in total. And then we're going to sum the grand total of males and females, which is 26. We also want to sum the grand total of yes and the grand total of no. Now, to get your chi-square, we also need to have expected values. So we simply replace this information down here. Now this is the formula. So essentially this will automatically populate because I have it set up that way. But what we're doing here is we want to make sure that all of the grand totals match. So 7, 9, 26, and then we have 1 and 25, so they match. Now this is a formula here, and what it's doing is it's looking at, for the males specifically, it's looking at what's the grand total of males times the grand total of the answer that we're looking for, in this case, yes, divided by the grand total of male and female. And that's our grand total down here. So C12 is right here. And then we're looking at E10, which is right here. And then we're looking at E12, which is down here. So again, all this is automatically going to populate for you. And then the chi-square formula is right here. So with the chi-square test, we see the p-value equals, in this case, a negative 1.46. Now, for our statistical test, if it is less than 0.05, it's statistically significant. If it's greater than 0.05, then there's not a pattern at all. And in this case, it's greater, so it is not statistically significant. That means that the gender of the grandparent does not have any relationship whatsoever to if their grandchild used academic support. Now what I did is I went ahead and did this for question 7, 8, 9, and 10. And again, I'm only looking at the grandparent's gender with these. What we could do is look at this from maybe the child's age. We could look at it by the child's gender. There's a lot of options that you could use here, but this would give you an idea of how to run that test. Okay, now some other statistics that we have would be our mean, median, mode, and range. For the mean, it's the average of their ages. Again, I'm just looking at the grandparent age range here. Because it is in an age range already, to get the average is tricky. So we'll do that in a minute. But the median is rather easy. Here we can look at the middle number. If we look at these, we can see that the middle number is actually 56 to 65. The mode is the most common. We can see because we have a count here that the mode is 55 to 65. And the range is obviously 35 to 85. So let me show you how the mean was calculated. Because we have this already in a category, we need to bust it out. So here you see this is the minimum age in the category, and this is the maximum age in the category. And I did that easily by using a formula, the left side and the right side. And basically what that does is it lets you see what's the left side of this cell with 2 spaces. And then what's the right side over here? We're looking at the right 2 spaces. Okay, now if you do this, it basically puts it in the type of number that is used here is not a numerical number. So I just did a copy, and then I did a paste special values. Actually, let me do it down here. So copy, and then I right click, paste special values. Okay, and then you'll notice that you get this box and it wants to convert to a number. So that's important because we need that to be a number in order for these to automatically populate. So the sum, what we're trying to do is, what's the grand total of everything in this section? You can type in your formula, or in the right of your screen, you'll see this sum button. And you can do that, and you have to make sure you have your entire column selected, which we start at E4. And I'll show you here, it's starting at E4. 4, and you hit enter, and that's your grand total. Now I'll take it out because it's automatically summing it here. So take that out, and that's our grand total. Now we need to know how many people are in this list. And what I'm doing is another formula called count, and that's E4 to E50, which basically includes everything here to tell us we have 31 people that answered the question. And then our average is simply taking your grand total, dividing it by how many people were involved. And so our grand total is 53. And then for the highest end of the range, it's 62. So 53 to 62. And if we come back over here, 53 to 62 is what I came up with. Okay. Now, because we're using these age ranges, I can't do a standard deviation with this, but what I did was the standard deviation on the grandchild. So here we have the grandchild's information, and I just copy and pasted this column directly from our original data. And here we have, we can do a filter. So if you are in your column and you click on data at the top and then filter, it gives you a chance to click a drop down, and you can see what the age ranges are here. Now we see that the age range is 3 to 12. Okay, so this is actually 3 to 12. Now that was the only one that I actually had to type in because we could see that with our drop down, ages 3 to 12. And if we wanted to know how many people in each, we could easily click on one and see, okay, we had 1 3-year-old, we have 3 6-year-olds, and so on. All right, so the mean is basically your average. And with this, there is a formula for it. So on this slide, we just looked at it. We eyeballed several of these, right? We didn't have a formula for them. It was easy to eyeball it. But in this case, we don't have a nice, concise little box. So we're going to eyeball it ourselves. Or not eyeball it, use the formula. So the mean in this case is the average of all of this. So if I wanted to do it down here, I would just simply use my function button, type average, and then you could just click on the whole column, and there you have the average. For the median, it's the same principle. You click your formula button and click median, and then it wants to know, what am I looking at for the median? It's that same column. So there you go. And then we want to look at mode. And it's the same column. And then as far as range, we typed that in ourselves because we used the drop down. And then standard deviation. Standard deviation has a few options. So I want to show you this one. Clicking on your function bar, you can type standard deviation and it won't come up. You can combine the two and it won't come up. So it is STD-DEV. I'm sorry, ST-DEV. And once you put in ST-DEV, you see you have a lot of options. The ST-DEV and the ST-DEV.S is basically the same thing. So those are the most common. In this case, I'm using ST-DEV.S, and I'll hit OK. Same principle, just click on the column, and there you have your standard deviation. Okay, so that gives you your quantitative statistics for your research study.